Why me? That is the question I asked myself when I was 15 and diagnosed with childhood leukemia after a camp physical, despite feeling totally fine. The experience led me straight to medical school to search for answers. Surely in medical school and internal medicine residency I would find answers, right? Nope. That is just how we do it, was the answer I heard over and over again. I would watch as numerous patients would come in with complaints. They'd get put on medication, have procedures that did not seem to address their why either. So I made it a pact when I started my primary care practice that I was going to focus on the cause of disease instead of just treating the symptoms. The most obvious place to start at the time was the problem with obesity and how it seemed to cause heart disease. I had to study things we weren't taught in medical school, like nutrition and hormones and integrative medicine. And guess what? I helped my patients. I helped myself feel better. I was even able to get pregnant. But after my second pregnancy, the whys started again. Why am I so tired? This cannot be how I'm supposed to live. Why did my heart that was damaged by chemotherapy all those years ago recover just to give out again and again? Why? I found myself in a really interesting place. On the one hand, filled with gratitude, I was alive, had a family, and a vibrant practice. But despite all these awesome things I had done, healing my gut, balancing my hormones, working on my autoimmune thyroid, getting rid of toxins, I still had brain fog, felt stressed all the time, and I was absolutely exhausted. It was as if my light had gone dim. Then, in my typical quest for answers, I came upon information about the mitochondria. These tiny powerhouses inside of our cell that make energy could actually be healed. What's more, you can even make new ones. Are you kidding me? In all of my years of studying in traditional medicine and integrative medicine, nobody had talked about the mitochondria, the very place where energy was made. Once I made that connection in my own journey and started focusing on healing my mitochondria, I now have focus and clarity. I feel relaxed and empowered, and I have limitless energy. The good news is that this turnaround isn't only for me. I believe that anyone can ignite the full power of their mind and body. And for the past 20 years, I have helped countless people do just that. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to heal and balance your body, choose the best fuel, calm and focus your mind, and help you go from dim to lit. So what is it that dims our light? Unfortunately, in this day and age, there are many things. To go through them all would take a really long time and not be overly interesting. So I'm going to buzz through some. We're all here because we found an alternative to poor nutrition, but we may still be suffering. Things like toxins, leaky gut, chronic infections, and our friends' stress that's everywhere and really difficult to escape. All of our systems get impacted, some patients more than others in certain areas, but they can all be supported. And the hard part is, too, that these symptoms that present themselves are vague, so nobody really knows what's wrong. They're fatigue and insomnia and trouble with focus, like I mentioned, everything that had happened to me, trouble losing weight, and then disease sets in. That's what we're trying to prevent. So enough about the dim stuff. How do I get on this lit journey, right? We're going to heal your body, help you kind of modulate the fuel you're taking in, and work on one of the most important pieces, your mind. This was me at the beginning of my journey, and many of you may still feel a little bit like this, right? You see there's not going far fast. So flat tires, rusty, windows broken, So that was not where I was going to stay. I had visions in my mind that looked nothing like this. So I kind of compare the healing of the body to how we would fix a car. The gut infections kind of can be looked at like the exhaust system. We've got gear shifts, brakes, pedals, brake pedal, steering. We have to stay well oiled, and then we really want to get that engine revving. I'm going to tell you about a patient named Jenny just real quick before we get into the gut. So Jenny came to me about a year ago because she heard I did a lot of work with the ketogenic diet. And she was so frustrated because she had been meticulous with her macros, was following everything perfectly. And she only had lost 5 pounds and then started feeling tired and just foggy. So we started talking, and as we went through her history, she brought up the fact that she had had multiple antibiotics as a kid, over and over again for things like strep and ear infections. And then when I asked her some more, she kept referring to the bloating that she would get on and off. So I told her, why don't we just mix things up a little bit? Just take a tiny break from being quite as meticulous with the ketogenic diet. And let's try to take more of an elimination diet approach and get your gut healed. So have you guys heard of the 4 R's with leaky gut? If not, it's pretty straightforward. So we really just went through removing things that might be bothering her. So the easiest way for you to do it is take out the most inflammatory foods, which we're going to get into in a minute. Avoid them for about 3 weeks, and then eat them and see how you feel. You're going to want to remove infections, and we have some different ways that we do it at our clinic with supplements, sometimes medication. Replace with digestive enzymes. Very often, especially with keto, you need special enzymes to help digesting fat. We repaired the lining of our intestine, and we re-inoculated with the right type of probiotic. So Jenny took a break for about 4 weeks, fixed all of this stuff, and then came back to see me it was about 2 months later. And she had lost the rest of her weight. She was glowing. Her stomach problems were gone. And the most interesting thing she said to me was not, thank you, oh my God, I finally lost weight on the ketogenic diet, it's working. She said, my gut is normal. I feel so much better. She hadn't realized how bad it was bothering her. So getting your gut healed is one of the main things you need to think about. When you have leaky gut, food particles and chemicals that were supposed to be digested and go out with your bowel movements, they actually slip through the lining of your intestine, and guess where they go? The liver. So that's the second line of detox. Think of your body, 3 main lines of detox. The first one, the poop that's going out hopefully every day. If that's not working right, and toxins and chemicals are getting into your bloodstream, and by the way, if you've lost a lot of weight with keto, or with any plan, you're going to have to really deal with this because you're going to get stuck if you don't. Fat-soluble toxins hang around in your fat cells, and then the liver is having to process them. The liver is not made for massive amounts of toxins like that. And very often the third line of detox will get involved, which is your skin. People will get rashes, psoriasis, all kinds of other things that just don't seem to make sense, rosacea, because that's another way that the body tries to detoxify. We have some interesting ways of helping, supplements like N-acetylcysteine and milk thistle, drainage remedies, which are homeopathic. Chelation, a little bit more complex. That's how you take heavy metals out of your body. I recommend that being done in the setting with the help of a functional medicine doc. And then one of my favorites, the infrared sauna. Does anybody have a sauna here? Yeah. So they're amazing. You may want to think about, you may really want to think about investing in one. We have, if you want some information at the end, I'm happy to help you find a brand that's not thousands and thousands of dollars. It's portable, and you sit in this sauna, and literally fat-soluble toxins and even things like heavy metals can come out just by sitting for 15, 20 minutes a day. It also increases your metabolic rate. Infections. So when we heal leaky gut, I mentioned parasites, bacteria, yeast. Those things need to be addressed. Yeast especially can be a problem in Florida, even worse than other places, because mold can be prevalent and we may not even know about it. So looking for that, especially if you're stuck with the ketogenic diet, is going to be really important. But one other point I want to bring up, which is the first one on this slide, is chronic viral infections. So this is the case where you may have had the flu as a kid, you may have even had mono, but felt like you got over it. But these chronic viruses, things like Epstein-Barr, CMV, human herpes virus 6, there are a bunch of these letter names that hang around. So you may not have remembered having something severe pulling you down, but they hang around, and when your immune system gets stressed, they can come out and make you wiped out. So looking for things like that sometimes is an answer to why you're getting stuck or feeling tired. What about this crazy system that goes throughout our body with hormones, how our cells talk to each other? What happens when those get stuck? And everybody here, I'm sure, has hoped that it was their thyroid, right? All of us. I hope that number is going to come out abnormal. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, because of the toxic nature of our environment, a lot of you are going to find it is your thyroid. It's just not the only thing that's going on. It's become incredibly prevalent due to a lot of the industrial chemicals that are in our environment. It's a little bit more prevalent in women, but it's very common in men as well. And over 50% remain undiagnosed. So if you're going to a typical physician, they're checking things like TSH, it's not going to be found. So this is another topic that I love, because we can give you nutritional support. Sometimes medication where you wouldn't have thought it was indicated, and then you really can make a turnaround. The adrenal glands. Those are your fight or flight glands. Except they're not supposed to be doing that 24/7, and in this day and age, they do. It's like we have our foot on the pedal in our cars that we're trying to heal without ever taking it off. So what happens when you do that? Well, guess what? The hormone cortisol goes sky high. And does anybody know what cortisol does to our body? Belly fat, blocks the ability to stay in nutritional ketosis, keeps us up at night, and makes you feel anxious. So that is really probably the number one thing that is not our friend when we're trying to have benefits with this type of lifestyle. There are supplements you can take, but lifestyle, meditation, getting outside, staying connected, which we're going to get into in just a minute, is the most important thing when it comes to your adrenal gland. And hormones. And we don't have a ton of time today, so I'm kind of going through these pretty quick, but I'm happy to answer questions at the breaks if anybody has them. But I don't know if people realize that just because you may go through menopause or andropause, because men do also go through a time where their hormones go down, or just because maybe you're young and trying to work out and optimize hormones, they can take a hit. When our bodies are stressed, and I don't care if you're a 20-year-old Olympic athlete, who, by the way, those are the people who have some of the most problems with their hormones and their adrenals, or you're a 65-year-old male or female that has gone through andropause or menopause, this needs to be focused on. And what happens during both of those settings is that the gland that's producing the hormones has been so taxed that it's tanked. And then it's knocking on the door of its friend, the adrenal, asking it to pick up the slack. Well, do you think that gland is able to do that? It's toast. So then what happens is the hormone levels will go down. You'll hear the Olympic athletes that they never get their period, right? Those girls, ever. And as you kind of get through a ketogenic lifestyle, you'll find if you don't pay attention to your hormones and optimize them, it's sometimes as simple as just taking adrenal support, if you can believe it. But the lifestyle, other things that we talked about, you're going to end up hitting a wall as well. Insulin, definitely the other hormone other than cortisol that is not our friend. High amounts of carbohydrates in the diet, make the cells not respond to insulin. High insulin gives us a multitude of symptoms. You wouldn't be here if you didn't at least have a general idea about that, because this is the number one thing that adapting a ketogenic lifestyle is going to correct. What about hydration? So, we've all heard the same kind of boring recommendations about water. But there's some new things coming out about water. Did you know that water can actually be structured? It can be charged. Water is an incredible substance. So there's research coming out day to day talking about how to optimize hydration and potentially even charge water. This is something we're going to have to wait to hear more about. But make sure for now that you're getting enough in. Most of the time when we feel hungry, we're walking around extremely dehydrated. And if you've been in ketosis for any period of time, I can guarantee you, you are dehydrated. You have to, my needs for hydration when I adapted into a ketogenic lifestyle probably tripled. Have you guys noticed that? You're more thirsty. So one of the hacks that I use that really helps is lemon. I know if you squeeze half of a lemon into a liter of water, I shoot for between 2 and 3 liters a day minimum, you'll find that not only does it taste better, because it gives it a little bit of a flavor, but it allows you to hold on to hydration more efficiently. And so I would try that one, and one last point I'll make, which is the days I feel my actual best are when I get that first liter in before I leave the house. Because once you get going, you know how that is. We're off. But if you can set it up, fill it up first thing in the morning, I recommend reverse osmosis. I think it's the most cost-effective way to get your water clean. You can get a unit for your sink that's only a couple $100s. It does take the minerals out, so I usually recommend just adding some mineral drops. You can get those at Whole Foods. But make sure that you get that hydration, because it's more important than you realize. For exercise, I like to focus on simplicity, and what you'll see if you get my book and if you talk to me, that's kind of, if I can't do it, nobody's doing it. I'll leave the amazing, incredible things. You know, Dr. Lowry's going to be speaking about performance. For you, if you can at least have a phone, which we all do, that's all you need as far as I'm concerned. A phone. Why? Because you can find some music that'll pick you up, and you've got a timer. You can be in a hotel room. You can be in your bedroom. It doesn't matter where you are. Outside's best, probably. And spend 1 minute doing something cardio and 2 minutes doing some type of strength training. And you alternate it. So you could do jumping jacks or run in place for 1 minute. If you're just getting going, just walk. And then 2 minutes of some kind of strength training, whether you get very light weights or you are doing planks. Back and forth, no reason to not get that done at least a few times a week. I'm going to bring up one last thing in regards to getting a lit body. This is something that most people don't know about. It's a specific type of chiropractic adjustment, but it doesn't involve any kind of cracking. So it's done with a sound wave. It's called C1 Atlas Orthogonal. Have any of you guys, if you're not my patients, heard of it? No, right? So what this technique is it's a way to get the first bone in your neck back into alignment safely. So there's no cracking that goes on. It's measured within 1/100th of a degree, and the sound wave that taps that C1 back in gets it lined up so perfectly that the signals from your brain talk the way they're supposed to again. And the blood is restored so that you are able to have more just concentration, focus. This technique has helped a lot of my patients that were stuck, because guess what? When your neck is out of alignment, which by the way is everybody, you fall once. We even think maybe it can happen in complicated deliveries, so it's hard to know. But if your neck is out of alignment, and you can talk to a couple of my patients who have had really good experience with this that are here, you send out a stress signal. Guess what that stress signal is? Anybody have any idea? Come on, you got it. Cortisol. Do we want cortisol floating around when we're trying to be keto adapted? Absolutely not. You have to look for the right practitioner if you're not local to make sure that they're doing this the safe way. All right, so here I am now. We're looking a little bit better, right? The wheels are moving. But that's still not my idea of how I see this machine working, right? So we got to go on to the next, and guess what that is? My friend, the mitochondria, soon to be your friend. So if you don't know about mitochondria, what's really fascinating about them is that they were their own bacteria on this planet. So millions of years ago, they did everything themselves, and then this body, whoever created us, decided to hack them and put them inside our cells to use them for fuel. So this bacteria figured out how to take oxygen from the environment and food and turn it into ATP. And we have thousands in all of our cells. There's one cell line that doesn't have them, the red blood cell. But everything else has thousands, with the ovary being the most. But our heart, our eyes, and our brain, 10,000 of these guys working around the clock to churn out energy so that we can do what we need to do. It even has its own DNA, which now that you know it was its own bacteria, shouldn't be that surprising. But that's a really interesting part that nobody has thought about, really, right? So it controls cell signaling, cellular differentiation, which means these little guys inside of our cells not only make energy, but they also control how our cells talk to each other. They're probably pretty important. The thing that's really, really interesting about mitochondria is that right now the field is exploding. Different types of energetic therapies, red light therapy, the benefit of the sun, which I'm going to tell you a quick fun story, different phases of water like I talked about, quantum physics, which is just the invisible energies we can't see and what they're doing, what they mean. So about 2 years ago, as I was studying this, my daughter was preparing for a biology exam. So she would often ask me to quiz her. So first I said, what subject? Please don't be history, please don't be history. And she said, no, it's biology, and we're studying mitochondria. So I was like, all right, bring it on. I'm ready. And she gives me this packet, it's like 10 pages long, and the first, literally, probably 4 pages were about the plant. So I was like, oh, Jordan, really? I thought this was mitochondria. And she literally looked at me and said, Mom, the chloroplast is exactly the same. What's the big deal? And so I looked at it, and I was quizzing her, and I sat there and I said, you're right. This looks exactly the same. That is so strange. Now, I didn't know what to do with that. I just went on and quizzed her and studied the mitochondria. About 6 months later, I was driving in my car, and I heard somebody talking about mitochondria because that's what I was searching for, basically devouring the literature for. And he's a very passionate guy. If you're really into podcasts, you may have heard him speak, but he's talking about the sun, and he's angry. And then he starts screaming, people, take a look at it. The mitochondria and the chloroplast are exactly the same. And I almost like crashed my car. And I said, I noticed that. I'm having this whole conversation with myself. So listening to him, and the practical use I'm going to give to you is, what does a plant need? It needs the sun, right? It needs the earth. It needs water. So maybe we do as well. We've spent all this time inside with junk lighting, a lot of things, Wi-Fi, energy frequencies we can't see. Everyone's scared to death to go in the sun, showing that was probably wrong and maybe why we're sick. Okay. So this is my best tip of the day, which is get outside, ideally first thing in the morning, before about 9 or 10. Take your shoes off, pretend like you're as luxurious as your phone, which gets to get charged every day. Put your bare feet in the earth. Take a look towards the sun, not right at it, and let the sun early morning rays get in your eyes. There's now research showing that will optimize your mitochondria, give you more energy, make you feel better. Who knew, right? Apparently the plants did. Guess what else mitochondria like? They like ketones. 20% more ATP produced in the ketogenic diet than with a high-carb diet. Less free radicals, more energy production, and maybe they may respond also to emotion, which is kind of one of the last things I'm going to tell you about. In my book and my approach, when I first started dabbling with the ketogenic diet, I was being very strict with macros. And I was watching patients on a 12-week program, because this was before it really got out. Dr. Westman was one of the only people I think that was doing it at that time. So I had people just track their carbs predominantly as I watched them struggle with the full calculation. And I decided just also to focus more and more on the quality of the food, because that's where I was seeing people get stuck. They're all excited to be able to eat cheese and meat again. And that was leading their C-reactive proteins and inflammatory markers straight up through the roof, and they were getting stuck. So this is another place for you to revisit. Try to add in what I call lit foods. They're easy. We've got hacks in the book on how to throw them in. And just make sure that you take out the dim ones. It's kind of cut off on the bottom there, but I'll tell you that a couple of the very keto-friendly ones, which are dairy and eggs, there is a huge percentage of the population that has an allergic reaction to it, but it's not an obvious reaction. It's puffiness and inflammation. What does puffiness and inflammation do? What hormone do you think that can increase if you're reacting to a food? Cortisol. So maybe that's a block that you're dealing with. Even certain nuts, a lot of people may be having reactions to. So doing a type of elimination type diet where you take the dim foods out for about 3-4 weeks, add them back in one at a time can really help. And for me, compared to maybe some other people that are recommending the ketogenic diet, I don't say it's time for everyone. I'll take a look at the patients, and my goal is to always get them into a ketogenic lifestyle, but sometimes I'm going to tell them, you know what, not yet. So I have in my book 3 levels to get started. Patients can start very low carb, or keto, and we can ease them in at their own pace as we correct all these other issues. Intermittent fasting can always be a tool, but I also find that if it's not done correctly, it will kick up cortisol and block the whole thing, just like all of these other barriers can do. The beauty is, we all know, and I'm going to let other people talk about this too, is that beta-hydroxybutyrate, the main ketone the body makes, it goes directly into the mitochondria. It's like a hack. It slides right in, and it can do its work. That's why if you've ever had, C8 oil or made fatty coffee, you feel so alert and on your game because it works right away at producing more ATP in your brain. It also inhibits an enzyme, and by doing that, protects much more efficiently against toxins. Exogenous ketones, a very hot topic. I'm guessing if you're in here, most of you have tried them. Can you raise your hand if you've tried? Yeah. So you may have seen, like I did, that they seem to work sometimes. They seem to help some things. So I think we don't really know the answer to this question just yet. I'm excited to say that we are currently conducting a clinical trial in my office. It's halfway through. It's sponsored by one of the companies that makes exogenous ketones. Real ketones is what they're called. But we're taking 2 different doses of exogenous ketones that are a balance of MCT powder and BHB in different doses. We don't know, that part's blinded. We're checking things like body fat, visceral fat, muscle mass, blood work. But the really cool thing we're testing is brain waves. So we're measuring EEGs at the beginning, and this is an 8-week trial. And what we also did that was differently is that we told the patients not to eat a ketogenic diet. We're having them eat healthy, so we have it more like a zone, sort of a balanced, healthy diet. But we're trying to tease out what these exogenous ketones can do on their own. So stay tuned for that. The early results have shown some pretty cool benefits on the potential to lose visceral fat, which is what we want to get rid of. Okay, so you may be at a place right now, and I know I was, where a lot of things are better, but we may be getting stuck, going back into old habits. And even if you're doing great, but you want to get to the next level, we have to address the mind. And again, I believe in easy tools. So I'm going to show you a little visual here. So I don't know about you, but again, like you saw my car, this is how I felt a lot of the time. Gray, drab, hard, right? Rough around the edges, maybe not always quite fitting in. But if you address those emotions, you work on your own empowerment, you try to find that inner athlete, the light that's inside of you, we all can turn into this. Okay? And I'll have this at the table. You want to hold it when we're done. I love crystals, so had to pull that in. So that's where we're going, okay? What I did was take a look at the most common things patients would come in complaining about, or what was going on in their lives that sometimes made them stuck. And this is in my book, but it has to do with thought patterns, your relationships, your self-care, how well you take care of yourself, and what your current state of health is. So you can just kind of run through, and most people, this again cut off at the bottom, looking for the switch. If you're looking for the switch, you would not be here. Okay. Flipping on, dim, all the way up to lid. And most people find themselves kind of between medium and dim if they're really, really honest. So what we did was I created affirmations. So affirmation is just a statement. And this is, again, in my quest to make everything easy. A statement that you can say that'll help you step into that person that you want to be. So take a look at that, find yourself in the book, and let's get you moving up on the lit scale. You're going to say your affirmation. Things like visualization, another thing I love. If you haven't tried this yet, there's a ton of research coming out now. Has anybody heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? So he's all about how you can visualize that person you want to be. And the more details you put into it, but more importantly, the emotion. So I want you every morning, again, this is another easy hack, and since I'm all about convenience, do it while you have your feet in the grass and you're looking at the sun. Picture that version of you, whether it's that car that's running really, really nicely, that I'm going to show you in a minute, or the inside of the crystal. Say the affirmation, even if you don't believe it yet. And just do that every day and visualize to the T. I want you to also feel the emotion that goes with it. How would you feel, if you're feeling great? Saying gratitude. Again, maybe only takes a minute. If you can start your day that way. Some people really do well with journaling. And then, again, one of my other favorite all-time hacks, which is act like an athlete and soak in Epsom salts. So you need a small tub because you don't want the salt to be too dilute. 2 or 3 full pounds, so like half the bag we dump in. Soak for about 10 minutes. Turn on a guided meditation if you're up for it, and then rinse off. You'll feel amazing. All right, so I'm not quite to this point yet. I'm working on it, but this is where we're trying to go. And one of the most important things, or most common things people ask me is, hey, Dr. Lisa, do you think I can have success too? So in my book and programs, I give you all the tools to be able to get to where I have been able to go. Think about all of the time that you have already wasted. That's what I do. All the time I wasted playing small because I was too tired or stressed. Think about the opportunities that have passed you by and the ability to unlock that unused potential in your own body. Whether you are healthy and trying to up your game, have a few little nagging issues, or you're somebody like me who's had to deal with multiple medical problems my whole life, you can ignite the full power of your mind and body and go from dim to lit. Picture a day when you have unwavering mental focus and clarity. Picture a day when you walk in the room calm and empowered, and everyone says to you, what are you doing? You are back to that version of you that lights up the room. Picture a day when you have limitless energy. So let me leave you with this. At the beginning, I talked about my journey through childhood leukemia, autoimmune thyroid, heart failure that recovered, but less than 2 short years ago, ended me up in the hospital almost on the heart transplant list. Less than 2 years ago. Using a unique combination of traditional medicine and my cutting-edge approaches, I was able to heal myself to a level that others thought was impossible. Now, in addition to being healthy, this is me, where I was recently evaluated at the same facility that monitors high achievers like Tony Robbins and numerous professional athletes, while I train for a strength competition in a couple of months. You deserve to have mental focus and clarity too. You deserve to feel empowered. You deserve limitless energy. And you deserve to ignite the full power of your mind and body. Thank you.